All right, it's review time. We are going to review New Japan and Stardom Historic Crossover 2, which happened this weekend on November 17, 2024 from Osaka, Japan in the Edion Arena. 3,547 people were in attendance for the big crossover show, the second of its kind. How did it fare, Warren? Is this a good number? I'm glad you asked. It's funny because recently we were talking about when we reviewed Power Struggle, which was a tremendous show. 3,773 people were there, and I was kind of like, good, but not great. Just so we can recall, so for Power Struggle, we were at 3,700 some. For the night 2 of the G1 Climax, we were at 2,545 as opposed to the 4,177. These are all in the same arena, just to make sure we're being clear here. We're all talking about the Edion Arena. So 4,177 in the building. So, that's pretty good. Earlier this year, there was a random night of the Best of Super Junior tournament that had 895 people. So, not tremendous, not tremendous, not bad, but look, you can do some comparisons here. Sunny Voyage from Pro Wrestling Noah, which happened just like a couple of days ago, right? That was main evented by Manabu Soya versus Go Shiosaki. What's wrong with me? 614 people showed up for that. TJPW had a show on just the night before the crossover show. 384 people showed up. That's awful. Stardom had a show in October there. 344 people were there. Like, there's a lot of good stuff, that you can glean from this, but I still don't think it's a great number, especially when you consider that last year's historic crossover show, the first one, which happened in November, which was not at the Edion Arena, but nonetheless drew 7,102 fans. So, like, year over year for the same event, we're like 4,000 people difference. That's not good. I don't think anyone's going around the Shin Nihon offices and giving each other some high fives. I really don't. It's that's not great. Those are not. That's right then and there. Like, you can already see like a problem. Now, last year was the novelty of the event, was the first time, and I thought it was much better promoted than this. They did a good job, I find, overall, to give these matches stories. They had Clark Connors showing up on Stardom, and they were doing social media stuff. Like, I feel overall they did a pretty good job building it, but not as good as the first one. And the first one, like I said, had the novelty of it all. But is this an indication of the continuing issues with New Japan's overall star power, where the usual guys? I'm getting really sick of this argument because I really sound like a broken record, and it's really fucking annoying. The top stars of the company, being Tanahashi and Naito, both not being physically capable to carry main events anymore, still being named, still being popular, but just not being able to work at the level they once used to. their absence, along with, again, Kazuchika Okada being gone, and, Will Ospreay being gone. Have we, is New Japan really suffering from all this time just not building new guys and putting too much weight on the shoulders of, a lot of people like to call it the golden era, right, of New Japan. And most of them are not gone, are gone or can't do it anymore. We're reconstructing the Shota Uminos, the Yota Tsuji, so on and so forth, the Oiwas. And it's going to take a little time. So is this just an indication that Zack Sabre Jr. might not be a considerable draw? Maybe we're just not ready to have that discussion quite yet. Because I think the Tokyo Dome is going to be very much a determining factor here as in regards to whether Zack can draw or not. But as it stands now, New Japan is not in the best spot ever. It's not in a dire spot. There are other companies in Japan that are suffering much, much more than they are. But I think we need to give this a little breathing room. But, the one thing we can absolutely say is that Zack Sabre Jr. is not the instant potion of healing to New Japan's woes, attendance-wise. Where should we start? Why don't we go? Do we go to the top? Do we go to the tippy top? I think that's a good way to do it. I like doing that. I like going to starting from the top of the card and working our way back down. Feels like it gives me, I enjoy the energy more. Maybe before I get into the matches themselves. Talk about the show, right? This is not a show that is everyone's cup of tea, but I don't have a problem with intergender wrestling, and I know a lot of people do, but I don't, and I think there's ways of doing it right, and I think for the most part, New Japan did it right. I have some quibbles, but I think for the most part, they did it right. Where there's, where the girls are so petite sometimes that the guys cannot credibly look like they're taking offense. And that's been put across on a couple of occasions, right? Like Suzu Suzuki, despite the fact of her being considered a maniac, a bruiser, she had issues trying to get at Great O'Khan, right? Which is normal because Great O'Khan towers over everyone and he's an animal. So, that's a smart way to approach it. So it's not like one of these situations where you have an intergender match and there's such a disparity in size between the two, yet both wrestlers are wrestling like they're on the same physical level. And I'm not saying doing moves. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about like physicality, bruising, like strikes and chops and kicks and lifting. They did it in very smart ways. Now, there are things that there are ways that they approached it that I wasn't really a fan of, because I think sometimes they put too much emphasis in a lot of the matches where it's like the woman chops the guy and the guy just stands there and no sells. They did that multiple times over multiple matches. And at some point I'm like, you know what? I fucking get it. I'm not a fucking dummy. Why are you telling me this story over and over again? And can't you tell another story than this, right? Because we get it. And these are all stories that happened at the first crossover historic crossover event last year where it was like, that's still the same thing. So I'm kind of like, okay, New Japan, you know, you want to shake them, and like, okay, yes, you've told us all these stories before. Now, can we move on a bit? Can we transition into another telling of the story instead of, well, the girls are smaller than the guys, so the girls can't hit as hard? Like, can't we move past that? But we didn't quite do that. Now, you know, I can understand why New Japan does this, because they are not a company that features intergender matches, period, throughout the year, right? Except for this show, apparently, which seems to be some kind of a tradition. But there's they seem to be angling to do this every year. But if every year we have to reset the stories to be like, hey, remember, the girls are small, the guys are big, and it's like, okay, well, then it gets a little it's a little tedious. And I already thought this year it was a little tedious. It's like, yes, okay, I get it. Let's do something fun instead. So that to me is a quibble. And the show I thought it was fine, entertaining. I think the business end was pretty good. I think there's, you know, I think the last two matches were notable. I thought they were a lot of fun. I thought the IWGP Women's Title match was a blast, easily the best match on the card. But, you know, everything else was all right. It was fine and nothing groundbreaking. And if certain things annoy you, well, about intergender wrestling, well, they were definitely there. And I think New Japan could have just grown up regarding a couple of things. They could have, when we get there, you'll know what I mean when I talk about it. But like overall, I thought, you know, I thought it was a pretty good show. I enjoyed myself. Is it match of the year? Is it a show of the year? No. It's one of New Japan's best shows. No. Far from it. You know, the undercard takes a little while to really kick off, you know, but you know, let's get to it. Why don't we just stop talking about it? No, these are the CMLL notes. This is not, these are other notes. Here we go. Zack Sabre Jr. and Micah defeated the duo of El Desperado and Starlight Kid. Now, Despe and Starlight Kid are absolutely the stars of these crossover shows. And I don't want to hear anything else. The absolute fucking charisma that these two have together and the chemistry that they naturally have is bonkers. I thought I was going to be a little disappointed as opposed to last year, because last year SLK was still a heel and El Desperado was still he was still a scumbag. You know, he was, you know, tweening, you know, not an outright Suzuki-gun son of a bitch, you know, but it was still a scumbag. Now, you know, Despe's not as much as a scumbag. He still has scumbag, you know, tendencies. And SLK's she's a baby face now. I was like, I really liked the duo because they were the lovable scumbags. That was the thing. It's like, you know, they clearly liked each other, you know, putting over the brother-sister relationship, you know, big bro, little sis kind of thing. But again, they come together, they do the thing. They just their entrance. And you're like, these two fucking rule. Like, they should be a permanent thing. Like, what are we doing not having SLK and Despe be partners more often, or just be in a fucking stable? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Bring her over more often for New Japan shows. Let her corner him, right? They stole the show from everyone else on this card. No one shined as brightly as these two. Just incredible nutso presence. And I don't know what it is, but it's just that the combination of these two together just lights both of them up, and it is remarkable. So this adds a lot to the match, and they have chemistry in the ring on top of that. So it's like, so it adds a lot to the match, which I thought was a blast. I thought this was a lot of fun. I thought it was a good match. And there's here, okay, and here's another quibble, okay? I don't know why we insist on having the mixed tag team rules on these New Japan shows, because I remember this was something that happened last year, and they're doing it again this year. I don't know why we're bothering doing the mixed tag rules when the girls are working over the men and the men are working over the women. Like I don't know why we do the mixed tag. Is it just to calm everyone down and say no, these are not really intergender matches. These are mixed tag. And if they start mixing it up, if they actually do some intergender, well, referee's discretion, right? You'd hear that often. You'd hear Chris Charlton and Walker Stewart go, referee's discretion, right? They do that quite often. I'm like, okay, but just then let everyone fight each other then. Like, what's the use other than maybe to try and quell some perhaps some more conservative voices, people who don't exactly like intergender. Like, I don't know what the strategy is. That's probably it, but I don't know exactly what the strategy is. So, it happens quite a bit in this match, and it's fine. What? It's just, why bother with mixed rules? It's like, it's fine. Micah does a stalling superplex on SLK and follows it up with 4 suplexes, which is fantastic stuff. Micah has come such a long way. Like, her look has completely changed. I know she's a big deal in Stardom. I even liked her. She was in a tag team with Hiroki Goto last year, which was one of these star attractions, right? The duo of Micah and Goto, like both the giving off the samurai vibe, and I thought that was a great pairing, and she's tremendous, and she's still tremendous here. The idea of her having won the Cinderella tournament, Zack Sabre Jr. having won the G1, so they're paired together against the lovable scumbags. But the lovable scumbags can't push it off. Michinoku Drivers, or Zack Drivers, get the big win here for Micah and Zack Sabre Jr. I would give this 3.5 stars, and it's a fun one, like a good, fun, entertaining main event. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing bad to say about it. It was a good time. Mayu Iwatani retained the IWGP Women's title by defeating longtime rival Momo Watanabe. I thought that was fantastic. I thought this was a fantastic match. I didn't quite know what to expect out of this one, but look, these are just a couple of pros, man, a couple of vets. Been a while doing this, both of them, and pulling out the main event stunts, just to make it feel big, make it feel impactful. It's a very, very, very physical match from the get-go, and they trade moves on the apron. I believe Momo does a bastard driver, and Mayu with a dragon suplex as well. Of course, there's the Hate girls who are here as well. Hate being the faction, the House of Torture of Stardom, and they get involved. But there's also the Stars girls from Mayu's faction who are there to cut them off or whatever. And And then at some point, Momo has the bat. She has a bat and she comes to swing the bat, but she doesn't use it. She doesn't use it because she wants to be able to beat Mayu for real without having to cheat, without having to do desperate things to get the win. So she tosses the bat away and she just starts throwing bombs at Mayu and just everything but the kitchen sink ultimately. But Iwatani won't go down. She fights back. They keep dropping each other and they have a very compelling final stretch. Momo unfortunately loses the match. I didn't note the finish, which is weird. I didn't write down the finish, which is strange, but Momo did not make it. Mayu retains. I gave this match 4 stars. I'm going to give it a 4. I thought that was very, very good and easily the best match on the show. And it's tremendous. Got no complaints. Was it a tiger suplex? I think you're right. Honestly, I'm sorry. For some reason I didn't write down the finish. I just, I basically write down that they keep dropping each other and have a very compelling last stretch. So after the match, Mayu Iwatani, she books herself for Wrestle Kingdom 19, where she's basically saying, I had to sit out last year. That pissed me off. Okay. All right. I can get behind that kind of shit. I don't know how much of stuff she's airing right now. And she says, yeah, I'm going to fight in the Dome this year. And y'all are not going to be able to do a thing about it. And then Izumi walks in to answer the challenge. So that's what we're getting at Wrestle Kingdom. It was made official because President Okada was there. And he was signaling, yep, we're going to do it. Yes. So is he an on-screen character now? Just like his boy, Tony Khan? Anyway. What is it? So Azumi and Mayu Iwatani for the IWGP Women's title at Wrestle Kingdom 19. Dope. That should be a lot of fun. That should be a blast. I love Izumi. I think Izumi has tremendous potential to get herself over in North America because I think she's very charismatic, but a hell of a worker. And, we've seen her a couple of times, like on Strong shows. She did the Forbidden Door. She was in the pre-show. But if you were to give her a little more room and, Tony wanted to, just put her in a match against, basically anyone on the roster, just have her lose, it's one of his top girls, one of the top women in AEW and have her lose to that person. I think, and that's right. She did Ring of Honor. I think she'd have real potential to get herself over. Taichi and Natsupoi took on Clark Connors and Tekla, and not only took them on, but they also won. So the story here is that well, first and foremost, in case you didn't know, Clark Connors and Tekla are a thing. They're an item. They are dating. And and Tekla is a part of Hate. So the Hate girls are there cornering Tekla, and they attack before the bell. But then the Cosmic Angels girls, which is Natsupoi's faction, they step in as well. This goes to the floor for a while, because after all, it is a War Dogs match. And what I find pretty dope here, and I'm not going to lie, is that I enjoy these little things. Tekla has a cast. Like, I'm assuming that it's a legitimate injury. She has a cast, and commentary is putting over the fact that she has that she probably has a foreign object in the cast, right? That she probably has something in there as well to just get, just like old cowboy Bob Orton back in the day, it's like, oh, he's got something in the cast. Can't be just the cast. And he's like, well, you make the cat when you go to the doctors, he's like, hang on, let's put a metal rod in here, a pipe, and do the cast around the pipe, right? I enjoyed that. Like it's the kind of and then it's like she's using it as a weapon, while the ref's back is turned and she's whomp, sometimes you just can't beat the classics because the classics are so good. They're just so efficient, Yeah, this was pretty good. She uses it a lot, and this, the match for the majority of it is built around preventing Taichi from getting the tag, but when he does, like the match just goes just goes on tremendously from there on, and they win, Taichi and Natsupoi. Good little match. I gave this another 3.5 stars. I thought that this was a lot of fun. And Clark Connors seemed super motivated. I think he had a blast wrestling with his girlfriend. Like it really, really was a good time. We also found out that we are indeed back to calling them just 4 guys. So Taka Michinoku can open back up his warehouse full of just 4 guys merch and start pushing that again. We're back to just 4 guys instead of just disbanding the whole fucking thing. All right, that's fine. And I forgot to mention, I talked about commentary. I mentioned commentary a couple of times, and it was quite a big table, right? There was like 4 people on it, and I don't remember. Like, of course, Walker Stewart and Chris Charlton were there. We're talking for the English commentary, of course. They were on the table. And then they had Tom, the Stardom guy. And then they had Xena, who was there. Xena, right? They had those, and I thought there were too many people there. And I felt like the Stardom guy and the Xenia, they were completely throwing Walker Stewart and Chris Charlton off their rhythm, like completely. I thought it was a very sleepy evening of commentary. It wasn't great. They should have just kept it to 2. They should have just had 2 people there. Maybe, they weren't too confident in letting Walker Stewart guide through with someone that he's never worked with before. Maybe they feel he's still a little green. I don't know what the deal was, but wasn't exactly the best evening of commentary. Great-O-Khan defeated Suzuki to retain the King of Pro Wrestling Championship. So they're doing their best to pass this off as a death match, and when Suzu comes out, they're really pushing to have her death match credentials be brought forward. She's hardcore, she does all this wacky shit, and she comes out with a styrofoam board, and I'm like, already it's like, oh boy. Which is filled with upright plastic forks. Like, plastic, huh? Okay, well, so this ain't your daddy's death match, I guess. I don't know. and I know she's capable of some really intense stuff, but yeah, I mean, this wasn't it, right? This really wasn't it. And here's the thing. Okay, look, straight off the bat, I didn't hate this match, right? I gave it 2 3/4 stars, which is like, meh, like a little below average, not good, not terrible, not exactly mediocre. Just here's my issue is that I didn't hate it because they were trying really hard to make this the only real intergender match, even though, like we talked about earlier, the mixed tag rules really didn't matter. But this was the only one. This was the only match that was billed as intergender, man versus woman. They really did a solid job building the story here that, Great-O-Khan could outclass her at any given moment, and that it's Suzuki's just wild demeanor and her fearlessness that helped her win the match, right? And I thought it was compelling. But there's they're fighting up the ramp, and they're pulling big moves. You've got Great-O-Khan who's butterfly suplexing her on the ramp, and tremendous stuff. And there's some proper wrestling too, but and then we have the staple gun, and she has the staple gun, and she staples, a sheet of paper to her cheek. That drives that shocks Great-O-Khan. Was like, oh shit, this woman's insane. And then she eventually staples it at the top of his skull. You can see it at some point. There's 4 staples there. Tell you what, Great-O-Khan's not much of a bleeder. I'll tell you that. There's and then there's the spot where she gets thrown off a short ladder, off the ladder through the styrofoam board with the plastic forks, and that's the big spot that ends the match. And I think this is why I'm so low on it, because I feel like they had the elements to really make something remarkable. On top of it being an intergender match, if they really were game enough to go down the death match route, or at least, have some blood going, I think this would have elevated this match tremendously. Because there's some goofy spots in this where Suzuki fills Great-O-Khan's mouth with plastic forks, just a mouthful. And then she's got him on the apron, and then she runs all the way to the gate on the floor, and she runs back and then she drop kicks him in the mouth, and he's standing there with a mouthful of forks. And that's a little goofy. I'm like, well, I also understand it's practice, and it's common practice in death matches to have weird stuff happen to suspend your disbelief, but it's usually for something that's pretty fucking brutal. That doesn't come across as brutal, especially because the plastic forks were all pastel colors. I'm like, I don't know. This is a match I really wanted to like. I really wanted to like more. I liked it, but I think I can't give it 3. I can't cross the threshold, because it should have been more deathmatchy. It should have been more hardcore. Now it's just a cute little plunder match, when I don't feel like it had started off that way, where we had an underdog story to tell, and where the story clearly was Suzuki using her hardcore ways, or dirty tricks, to get the upper hand. And we didn't quite get that. So yeah, it kind of left me flat. I ended up not feeling anything. I don't know. I was a little disappointed. 2 3/4 stars for that one. Let's breeze through the others. There's there's one spot though, right? There's one spot here where Great-O-Khan sticks his thumb up Suzuki's ass. Right? He's got her in a submission, and he does one of these. He wets his thumb, and he just drives it up her ass. And I'm like, okay. This is what I meant earlier when I was saying, can we move on from oh, guys are fighting girls, kind of thing. It's we're not 13. I don't know. It didn't offend me. I'm not what's he doing? This is sexual abuse or whatever the fuck, It's Oh, it's all performance. It's fine. I was more like, this is kind of dumb. It was more like, this is kind of dumb. The Bullet Club War Dogs duo of Gabe Kidd and Drilla Maloney, alongside Natsuko Tora and Saya Kamitani, defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi, Rizuki Taguchi, Hanan, and Saya Ida. Fine little match. I gave it 3 stars. The one thing that I found particularly weird, the highlight of this match, because I thought it was mostly a comedy match, right? And the idea is, in the build-up, the idea here was that Taguchi sort of has a crush on Saya Kamitani. She sort of leads him on, but also tells him to go fuck himself, right? And at some point, Taguchi is standing face to face with Natsuko Tora, and she's standing in his way or whatever, and she's a big lady, and he's a skinny junior, and sort of to counter her, he sticks his hands right in his pants on his crotch, and what is he doing? Is he he starts to masturbate? Is that the thing? The girls go straight for him when he does that, but I'm like, what the fuck? I know the stories about the gentlemen who go to Stardom shows. I know the lore, but that was a little strange. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Can we just the Taguchi Kimitani stuff? I understand, because that was actually part of the build, right? That was a thing where he was crushing on her, and she just she's a heel and whatever. But this didn't even connect with the other stuff, and it was weird. It was weird. It was very strange. That, again, not offended, but I was kind of like, it's not great either. That, brother, that makes me a little more uncomfortable. That's maybe something we shouldn't be doing, and I don't care if it's but it's more accepted in Japan. I don't know if it is. I'm just saying, whatever argument you want to bring up. I'm like, you still shouldn't do that. You still, even if you're just pretending, even if you're just pretending to yank it, you shouldn't do it. It's weird. It's weird. It's not cool. Yeah, I mean, this was, I gave this 3 stars. Overall, it was all right. And interesting little situation here where Tora she really had it in for Tanahashi. She misted him. And then after the match, she went and beat up on him some more. And she was like, yeah, I'm coming for him. I'm not done with you. I'm like, wow, all right. And I like her. She's got a good old school NJPW vibe about her. I like her. She's got this big bruiser, this Dump Matsumoto Aja Kong kind of vibe to her, which I dig. I think there's something there. And I'm coming for you, Tanahashi. I'm like, all right. Better than, you could go after the other pervert too. That'd be pretty good. Callum Newman, Francesco Akira, and Jeff Cobb defeated Oleg Boltin, I should say. Tiger Mask and Toru Yano. I gave this 2.5 stars. It's fine. Akira gets the win on Tiger Mask. I don't have many notes here. Azumi Meisera and Miyu Amasaki defeated the Hate trio of Konami, Rhea, and Ruaka. Azumi gets the win with the missile dropkick after Sarah lands a double underhook X Factor. And again, Azumi is very, very, very good. And on the Hate side, I like Rina, but Konami and Ruaka, they could hit the bricks. Didn't think they were that great. And finally, we had Saori Anu and Tam Nakano defeating Shiri and Tomoaka Inaba. Good little opener. Tom gets the win with the screwdriver. Nice little hard-hitting opener. Of course, you got Shiri in here. Who's queen of striking. She's tremendous. Excited to see how. Yeah, like she's anyway. I like her a lot. She should be more at the top of the card than slumming it with, this curtain jerking here. Oh, we had a pre-show match. Aya Sakura and Hanako defeating Rana Yagami and Saya Kurara. That's fine. Don't have much to add there. So there you go. That is my recap, my review of New Japan Pro Wrestling X Stardom Historic Crossover 2. Business end of the show was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I thought, like I said, Iwatani versus Watanabe was the main event of the show. Well, wasn't the main event, but it was the match of the show. But is it something you need to watch? I don't think so. Especially at $35. Christ, no. Like, it's fine. Like, nothing. Yeah. If you can ever catch it for free, you'll be entertained. But yeah, no. This is not a. I don't know why it's a pay-per-view. I really don't. I don't know why this particularly is a pay-per-view. Maybe off of the success of last year, they were like, oh, yeah. But it definitely wasn't as much of a success this year. And it definitely wasn't as good as a card, I find, overall. But yeah, look, maybe just added to the regular New Japan World rotation and that'll be fine, right? That'll be fine.